2 and A1. Not selling anything. Hello, everybody. We're going to give everybody some time to get in here. We are live on 3 different platforms. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram right now, so everything's got to kind of sync itself up. All right. I think we are getting there. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. And thank you for tuning in. This is our second ever office hours gummy making help stream. And we are here, or I am here, to answer any questions that you guys might have in your gummy making journeys, or anything that I can help you troubleshoot, R&D. That's what we're doing here today. So go ahead, throw some questions in chat. Like I said, we're on 3 different platforms today. We are on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So I'll try to be pulling those from every location and answering them as I see them come through. Looks like Facebook is a little bit delayed. It's okay. It was last time. I think that's just kind of how Facebook runs. There we go. All right. All righty. So we're just going to wait and see if we get any questions in here, guys. All right. Alrighty, guys, we're just waiting for everybody to filter in here. Get everybody in. Alright, come on, Facebook. Push live. Push it. I don't know why Facebook is being so far behind the rest of everything else. I think that's just how it is. That's weird. Okay. Well, yeah, guys, any questions that you might have in your gummy making process, let's throw them into the chats or into the comments, and we'll get them answered for you. Come on, Facebook. Still behind. About like 5 minutes. All right. Come on, Facebook. Facebook is still behind everything else by like 5 minutes right now. Okay. Now it's up to date. I think my end was just slow for some reason. All right. Yeah, everything is up. So if you guys have any questions, we're here for about the next hour today. Just here to be a service to you guys. Hi, Kylie. How do I stop my gelatin gummies from sticking together? I would recommend, so the big thing there is making sure you're setting yourself up properly to demold. So let me show you what I do here. You grab a mold, and let me grab a hotel tray. One sec. All right. So if I had a full mold of gummies here, let me get myself back into center. Cool. This was a full mold of gummies on my tray here. The first thing I would do before doing anything else is sprinkle some of my finishing sugar on top of the gummies here. If you're going to be using, like a carnauba wax or something that's not a finishing sugar, you can spray that on top too. And then when I go to demold them, I will pour a whole bunch of that finishing sugar straight onto the tray and then have the mold upside down as I demold straight into that pile of sugar. Does that make sense? So it's trying to get it coated as quickly as possible in any way. I hope that helps you, Dammy. Dammy asked how to get gelatin gummies to stop sticking together. All right. Any tips on infusing with dry mushroom? Yeah. So whenever you're going to be using a dry powder that is kind of hydrophobic, like mushrooms are, you're going to want to disperse that into some sort of base liquid. I use MCT oil whenever I'm doing something like that. Let me find my MCT oil. There it is. So MCT oil is a very highly refined coconut oil that stays liquid at room temperature. So what I'll do is use a small amount of this mixed with the dry mushroom powder before I add it into the gummies. Get that to disperse, get that all mixed together so that when you add it to the gummies, it will disperse properly rather than clump. With powders and stuff like that, you might get that clumping, so you're always going to want to try to get it into some sort of damp or wet state to help, get it properly dispersed all through there. All right. Any tips on using Cody's or Nerds to coat your gummies? Yeah, that would be the same exact thing as with the sugars. If for some reason they're not sticking to the top of your gummies before the demolding process, maybe a little light spritz of water to get that stickiness activated again. Just pour those on top, demold right into the Nerds or gummy or Cody clusters or whatever you're using. If that makes sense? Let me check. I'm just going to keep checking all of the different places that we're live right now, just watching for questions. But thank you, Demi, or Demi. Appreciate that. All right. Okay. Let's try to freshen that one. All right, perfect. keep an eye on my chats here. Okay, what should the temp and humidity or dew point to cure gummies? So, for temperature, I wouldn't recommend anything above, normal room temperature. Anything above 75 degrees. Once you hit your 80 degrees, that might, start to have an effect on your gelatin. It shouldn't at 80 degrees, but that's kind of where I set my line just to be safe with things. For humidity, you will want things typically less than 30%. But you will still be successful at higher humidities. It just might take a little bit more time. You might have to put a fan on the curing gummies. But yeah, hope that helps there. Hi, Candy and Balloon. Thanks for joining us today. I did have a question with a customer that I was on the phone with earlier today that will probably be relevant for some people in here. They were having issues about their gelatin gummies remaining too sticky once they're demolded, not fully curing, things like that. So one of the things to be aware of with gelatin gummies is gelatin is very temperature temperamental. Meaning if you heat it up too much, the active gelling agents in the gelatin start to degrade. So at higher temperatures, it starts at about over 140 degrees, and it gets exponentially more quick the higher that temperature goes. So even if you're melting your gelatin gummies on a double boiler, using only steam to heat them up, you still can have that gelatin degrade if you're leaving it there for just a long time. So a long time with steam contact will bring that gelatin above 140 degrees, and if you allow it to sit there for a long time, you will start to degrade that gelatin a little bit over time. So once things are fully melted, make sure you're pouring them out and getting things molded up. Okay, can the same molds be used to make hard candy and gummies? They can. One of the things when making hard candy is it doesn't quite pour out as well as the gummies do. It will want to solidify a lot more quickly. But you can totally use the same molds. I use the molds that I use for my gummies here when I'm testing hard candies. Totally possible, totally interchangeable, just like ice cube trays. Silicone ice cube trays work great as well for that. All right. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. Any other questions in the queue? Hi, May. Thanks for joining us. All right. Let's see here. One of the questions we do get a lot when people are looking into our product is, we do offer two main bases to make your gummies with. One is gelatin and one is pectin. And people ask a lot, what's the difference between those two? The major one being that the pectin is a vegan product, while the gelatin is not. Gelatin is a derivative of, it's an animal byproduct. It's what thickens up soups and sauces and, like if you get pho and you take it home, put it in your fridge, it'll start to gel up. That's the gelatin acting in that. Pectin is a plant-based byproduct that is found most commonly in the skins of fruits like apples and stone fruits, but it is what makes things like jams and jellies thicken up. So it's just two different ways of kind of meeting at the same final product. Your gelatin will be more chewy than a pectin gummy will, but a pectin gummy in turn will be more heat resistant, as pectin can come to a boil and completely set afterwards. So there are benefits to eat both. It's just kind of whichever you prefer. Unless you want vegan, in which case it is pectin and only pectin. All right, let's see. Any tips on using acids to make the gummies sour? So yeah, the most common way that I use acids to make gummies sour is in the coatings, so like in the sugars, and in which case you want to use something called encapsulated acids so that they're not leaching moisture out of your gummies. You can also add acid bases of different sorts to the gummies themselves, but that you will want to do in the very last moment before you pour them onto the molds, as acid can have a stabilizing and thickening effect on pectin and gelatin, so you don't want to be cooking your product with that in there. It might have an effect on the final outcome. But if you mix it in right before you pour them onto your molds, that's the best time. Thanks for that question, Ashley. And we have also got another question here. It says, how do I keep true gelatin texture when using infused cocoa oil to infuse my gummies? The biggest thing there to keep your textures when you're using additions is to use the smallest amount possible to succeed in whatever you're using that for. So if you were using coconut oil that's been had an additive to it, say like a THC rosin or proteins or something like that, you will want to make sure that, like how I was saying earlier, that I will use coconut oil when adding mushroom powders or something like that. You're going to want to be using the smallest amount possible that will still allow you to be successful with whatever you're using it for. So we're talking, if I was doing a 5-pound batch of gummies and I was adding, a couple tablespoons of a powder of some sort, I'm going to want to use the smallest amount of this MCT oil, hopefully, half a tablespoon or even less, to get that proper dispersion. Thanks for that one, Kara. All right, let's check our other comments, see if anybody's jumped in on Facebook or Instagram. Doesn't look like it momentarily, but that's totally all right. Hey, Nick! How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Hope life is awesome. All right. And guys, if you've asked a question, I haven't answered it yet. Might just be a delay on stream or something like that. I'm trying to answer them as soon as I see them come in. But again, I'm streaming to 3 places today. It's YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So things are a little delayed. They're not perfectly timed up between the 3. So if you've asked a question, I promise I'm going to get to it and answer it. All right. And then if anybody on my team is here and can check the Facebook, I remember last time I wasn't able to see the comments there. I'm still not seeing them currently. I don't know if there are any, but if there are, if some of you guys can copy and paste those into YouTube, that would be awesome. Just in case they're there and I can't see them. All right. Another question that I've dealt with in recently was about using natural colors in your candies. And natural colors are awesome. I love working with them too. Some of them can be super temperamental, especially when you're doing things with high acidity and high temperatures like gummy making. So if you are using a natural, say, blue color that is derived from, oh geez, what's that pea flower? I'm blanking on it right now. One sec, I'm going to Google natural blue food color. I'm just blanking on it. Oh, pea flower. So if you're using something like pea flower or spirulina, both of those will react with both heat and acid and lose that blue coloring. Pea flower will go to a very light purple color. Spirulina sometimes goes, kind of like a greenish brown. Sometimes it goes away completely. So if you're dealing with natural colors and you're working with, something like our pectin that comes up well over boiling temperature, unfortunately, those natural colors don't really work well in this situation. There are other naturally derived colors that do work better. For example, just sticking with blue, if you find geranium-based natural blue colors, which is pretty new, that is much more heat stable, much more acid stable. So it's just, the world is kind of turning over to natural colors, and we're just still finding the best ones available. So if you have problems with blues or greens or purples, it's likely not you. That's just kind of the state of natural colors right now. And so if for some reason you're having issues with that, please reach out to us, reach out to me, and I will help try to guide you to what I think will work best for you. All right. Okay, let's keep checking. Make sure these are all up to date. Got all those, got all those. Cool. All right. Yeah, if you guys are on our Facebook stream, many apologies. That one is severely delayed against the other two on YouTube and Instagram. But I promise I'm here and checking to see if there are comments on this end. Just for some reason, Facebook, when you're multi-streaming, stays pretty far behind. Would you be doing anything like the 30 gummies in 30 days again? Yeah, I would love to. It's that would very much be in our plans again. If we were to do that again, I would love to be able to try to make those gummies available to you guys so that you can be actually trying the ones that we're doing that spotlight with. So if and when we get back to that series, we're going to make it a little more accessible for you guys so you guys can be actually trying those ones as we're going along. Wildest flavor combo that turned out to be amazing. Huh. I mean, I don't think it's wild. I come from the restaurant industry, with a pastry background, but I love doing sweets with fresh herb flavors. And I know that it surprised people like our owner here, Susan. She's not real big on the herb thyme. But one of my very favorite flavor combinations is blueberry, lemon, and thyme. And she was very pleasantly surprised with how those came out. Herbs they're a seasoning and can be used as such in sweet aspects as well as the savory ones. So I think that one is always great. I love showing people herbaceous sweet things. Another one. I don't know if any of you guys know the channel, but Good Mythical Morning with Rhett and Link, their whole group that they run, they have Mythical Kitchen with, his name is Chef Josh. I'm a little bit jealous of that man. He's living the best life. But he is a big Dr. Pepper guy and has found that you can get real close to the flavor of Dr. Pepper with a combination of Coca-Cola or Coke and root beer. And so that's always a real fun one to play with. To have people try to guess what that is after just kind of mixing those two together. Yeah. Thanks for that question, Nick. Okay. Stick over here. Yes, Facebook's still pretty far behind. That's okay. All right, let's see. Any more questions pop up anywhere? Over here? No, not there. Not here. All right. Another thing that I would, if anybody is interested in getting into gummy making or wants to do that on their own, and they're kind of looking into things. One of the things to be very aware of when you're candy making and stuff like that is your mold is obviously a massive key component to whatever you are doing. One of the big things to be aware of with molds like this is if you have a mold that, has a more complex design in it or a picture or something like that. These will typically be a little bit more difficult to demold or fill super properly than something that's got a very basic rounded edge design. Like, I don't know, let's see if you guys can see here. Yeah. So these aren't even hard cubes. These are kind of like rounded pyramids. So this mold, and then I also have a mold that, is half spheres. Those are probably the two easiest molds that I have in-house to demold, simply because there's no hard corners that are wanting to hold the candy in there. So if you're just looking for, the quickest and fastest tools for the job, making sure your mold has rounded edges is going to be really key for that. Okay. Oh, we got another question here. What is the curing process for the vegan pectin gummies? Yeah, so after I pour out my pectin gummies onto their mold, I will allow them to come down to room temperature because they're very hot. They're going into the molds, over 240 degrees Fahrenheit. So I let those come down to room temperature, kind of steam off a little bit, and then I will put the pectin gummies into the freezer at that point. I will demold them the following day, or, even as quick as like 3 hours, depending on the size of the mold cavities. Demold them, get them tossed in my finishing sugars, and I will allow them to cure on a baking tray on a covered speed rack overnight, just like I do with the gelatin gummies. So after demolding, the curing process is same, whether it's gelatin or pectin. Thanks for that question. Can you melt your gelatin gummies in a microwave? Yes, you can. Gelatin gummies can totally be melted down in the microwave. So can the pectin ones. The gelatin ones are just going to happen much, much, much more quickly. And when you're doing that, when you first start to see the gummies start to melt and lose shape, you're only going to be wanting to microwave in 10-second bursts because it will very quickly get to the point where it's all liquid and wants to boil. And if you allow that gelatin base to boil, it won't fully set anymore. Because again, if you were here earlier in the stream, gelatin does begin to denature at higher temperatures. So if you ever bring gelatin to a boil, you're likely not going to get it to set properly. So making sure that you're very, keeping your eyes close on it in the microwave. But aside from that, yeah, you can totally do everything as normal. Thank you for that question. All right, let's keep looking here. And then just to kind of continue on that with the gelatin in the microwave, the pectin base can be melted down in the microwave too. It will just take lots of stirring. It will probably take, 5 or 6 times the amount of time it would take for the gelatin gummies to melt, if not longer. I use the microwave to melt pectin most often with when I'm remelting things. So if I have parts of my molds cavities that aren't completely filled, or I did my flood and scrape method and some of the gummies ran off onto the tray, I will remelt those in the microwave as pectin. It is totally possible to do them from their original cube state in the microwave too. It just takes a little bit longer and will take a lot of stirring, vigorous stirring to make sure those cubes are melted properly. Yeah, okay. When using carnauba wax and oil for coating, what is the best ratio you experienced? Tried 5% wax, but they were too oily. Better 15%, but still not prime time ready. All right, so again, on this one, this is going to relate back to using the minimal amounts of things that you possibly need to succeed. So when you're melting your carnauba wax and mixing it in with some, say, warm MCT oil, you're going to want to use the smallest amount of MCT oil that you can to get that properly melted and then coated onto your gummies. Too oily is just meaning that you've got too much of your oil base in there for the wax to either adhere or it's just too diluted. So again, whenever you're doing anything with MCT oil or another oil to use as a dispersion or to use as a coating, it's about finding that point that is the smallest amount you can possibly use. Thank you for that question. Hi, Elle. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. Comments over there. How do you determine the infused oil to pectin base ratio? I mean, that's a little harder to, put a definite answer on because that is all going to be variable based on the strength of the gummies that you're making. So, depending on I'm going to assume we're talking THC gummies here, depending on the concentrate that you're using. Those are all different variabilities of concentration. You can have rosins that are near 50%. You can have butters that are up towards 90. So that's all going to be your main variable in how you determine your infused ratios and dosing beyond that. And again, with the using the oil to separate it in, I wouldn't be using the oil that you're adding to your rosin to help it disperse. That's not part of your calculation. Because again, you want to use as little oil as you possibly ever can during those moments. And it'll be about the concentration of the concentrate. So the strength of the concentrate that you're using against the mass of the gummies that you're making. So again, it is kind of variable based on the strength of things that you're using, based on the size of the molds that you're using. But yeah, I wouldn't use the oil in any part of that calculation because it's just there to help you disperse things. Thanks. Let's see. Let's. Okay. Oh. Where's my mouse cursor? Where's my mouse? There it is. Let's see here. Any new questions popping in? Not quite yet. Okay. Curing process, we did that one. Let's see here. Any new ones? Jump in. All right. And yeah, team, I'm still doesn't look like anything's on Facebook for me. So if you guys are watching that, that's awesome. Thank you. Or it just might not be super active. That's a possibility too. But just making sure I'm not missing something, just in case. Let's see here. Let's see. Hey, you boys jumping in. All good. We'll see if anybody else is going to jump in here with some questions or anything like that. Or, you know, it doesn't have to be super gummy related. If you guys have other candy questions, I might be able to help you out there. Obviously, we're focused on the gummies a little bit here, but I'm happy to help wherever I can. Actually, let me grab something. I've got another thing I can show you guys. I had another conversation with a customer of ours recently about altering the density of their gelatin gummies if they wanted to make it more dense and, you know, a harder chew, something like that. That's totally possible. So all you would be doing is adding some sort of gelatin to your gelatin mix. What I wanted to show you here is there are grades of gelatin. So you can see here I have 3 different kinds of gelatin from the same manufacturer. I have a silver, a gold, and a platinum. essentially, it allows for a little bit firmer setting between each one. So gold's going to set more firmly than silver, platinum more firmly than gold. So it's just about finding the one that you want to work best for you. Hi, Reed. Thanks for joining us today. All right. Put these away. Okay, let's see here. Okay. But thanks for hanging with me today, guys. I appreciate you guys being here. Again, this is a monthly thing that we are doing. Typically, it will be on the third Wednesday of each month. Unfortunately, this month, the Candy Expo, the Sweets and Snacks Expo in Las Vegas happened last week. And so I was there on the show floor last Wednesday, so we had to move this one back a week. But going forward, it will be on the third Wednesday of each month. Just checking around, making sure everything is not missing any questions. Doesn't look like it. That's good. Okay. All right, guys, we'll give it probably about another 10 more minutes or so here, see if anybody else has some questions, anybody jumps on late. And I know it's a little bit dead air over here. Unfortunately, we can't have music on the streams here because we're live on YouTube. Things get pulled down and it becomes a whole issue. So yeah, that's why we're doing it a little. It's a little more mellow in these streams than if you've been on our Whatnot streams or something in the past. Got music going on those. Just can't do that over here though, unfortunately. All right. Let's see. Anything else popping up? All good. All good. We're going to hang here just in case anybody jumps in. Think so. Nothing there. Hello, Herbal Antidote. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. Okay. Alrighty then, guys. I think that's probably where we will wrap it up then today. Things have gone a little slow, but that's all right. If you guys have any questions that need a little more detail or anything like that, you can find all of my contact information on our website, or my name is Kylie, spelled K-I-L-E-Y, and you can email me at kylie@candypros.com. And I'm always here if you guys need any help with anything. So thanks so much for taking the time to hang with me today, guys. And I'll see you next month. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.